Here are 7 book recommendations for women. Although these are not all books entirely written for women, I think that they're exceptional for women who are on the journey to self-improvement and just wanting to live out the best version of yourself according to God's design for you. These are not all books backed by biblical principle, but if you read them as a woman of God through that lens, they will definitely help you. These are the books that I've been recommending to the ladies through the Womanhood series. I'm actually going to send this out in an email later this week, but I decided that I could share it with y'all too. The first is Emotional Intelligence Habits by Dr. Travis Bradberry. Again, not a book for women. One of my favorite reads. Y'all have heard me talk about this before. I have an entire playlist of at least 30 parts where I share concepts from that book. I think that it is great to help you to realize some of the isms of people, some of the things that we do, some of the things that other people do, helping you to identify toxic traits in yourself and in others, helping you to improve yourself and to just show up as the best version of yourself. He does not write it from a biblical context, but I made that disclaimer already. Read it through the lens of a person who is a believer, and you will be fine. The Next Conversation by Jefferson is another one. If you don't want to get his book, I will say he is pretty active on socials, especially on TikTok. He's one to show up and give you 3 ways to have a better conversation, 3 ways to advocate for yourself in conversation, 2 ways to diffuse a conflict, whatever the case may be. That book helps you to uncover some of the things and the blunders that you've had in conversations before. It's never going to help you to go back and revisit a conversation that didn't go as planned, but it will help you to keep some things in mind going forward. Keep It Shut by Karen Lehman is actually a little offensive if you're not ready for it, but it's very direct, and I think that's probably why it's offensive. But it is backed by scripture, and it's a great tool to use in your womanhood to learn how to bridle that tongue, practice fruit of the spirit, hello, Galatians 5:22, and to really just help you to put things into perspective, not to just shut up all the time, but to really consider, do I need to say this thing right now? Is it absolutely imperative that I open my mouth and say this? Chances are it's probably not, girl. Another one is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. A lot of people get in their feelings when I recommend that one. I also have a playlist for Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Oldie but a goodie, very classic book, very polarizing in some ways, but it does demonstrate a lot of the ways that we can be confused about each other as the genders. It's not meant to be something that is divisive. It's very irritating sometimes to read something like that with an audience online, because instead of listening for context and figuring out how to understand the other party, people turn it into a men versus women debate. So if you're too immature to handle that type of book, please don't read it. You're just going to torture yourself. But it is a great tool to help you as a woman to understand how men are, why they do the things that they do, and even give some insight to yourself in highlighting some of the things that you could be doing a little bit better. And if you're a man, just take that advice in reverse. Another is The Queen's Code. This was recommended to me by someone that I know, Elena Jackson, who is actually a therapist. She's on here as well. She recommended that book and we read it together. We had meetings about the book. It is fiction, but it follows the life of 3 women who are on a journey to womanhood. One of them is a lot more older. She has great experience with men. She's in a very happy, healthy marriage, and she's helping the other 2 young women to navigate womanhood, but not just in a way that is manipulative and giving advice on how to keep a man and maintain a relationship. The advice that she gave was genuinely life advice on how to operate as a woman and how to deal with men in general, how to deal with your male students, because one of them was a teacher, how to deal with the men in your life, the random men in your life, the professional men in your life, the man that you're married to. And I think that it talks a lot about having self-control and managing the challenge as a woman to sometimes practice restraint, but a lot of it is just unlearning some of the practices that we have learned as women that are just not serving us well. So I definitely recommend that one. It's by Alison Armstrong. 10 Stupid Things Women Do to Mess Up Their Relationships. It's Dr. Laura Schlessinger. You know what that means. She's going to snatch your edges, girl. If you don't feel like having your edges snatched, don't read that book. Very direct. She shares a lot of patient experience, not necessarily direct experience, but she tells the stories of the people that she's worked with over the years, and she sums it up to the 10 ways that women ultimately ruin their relationships. Now, a recent addition to this list that I made is People Can't Drive You Crazy If You Don't Give Them the Keys. That one is by Mike Bechtel. I think that's how you say his last name. This one was a recommendation to me by Jarnay, and I love that it actually does address biblical concepts. It is framed on something that I firmly believe, which is you can never change other people. You can only change yourself, control yourself, and adapt to situations. A lot of people, women specifically, spiral in their relationships because you're waiting on the other person to change. If they would just do this, my life could get better. I could stop suffering. If they would just stop being crazy, and they're not going to change if they don't want to change. And instead of you relying on them or waiting on them to change, you can embrace the fact that you can only let people drive you crazy. They can't do it to you without your permission. And that's exactly what he outlines in that book. He talks about principles in self-control, learning patience, so much more than that. But it's a great tool to read, and he often references scripture in a way that helps you to dive deeper on some of the biblical concepts that you may or may not already be familiar with. Primarily, I'm always going to tell you to read the Bible. So those are the books. But then in the Bible, I always tell people to focus on Galatians 5:22. It's not specifically for women, but if men and women both learn how to walk in the spirit, you will be naturally more masculine and feminine, however that manifests itself in your life. And then I also tell women to focus on specific points in Proverbs, but obviously Proverbs 31. But don't read it from what you think a Proverbs 31 woman is. Read it from the perspective of what is actually there, how she is, how she operates, her kindness, her selflessness, her diligence. She's not a lazy woman. She's not living a traditional soft life, but she is well cared for while she is also working with her hands to make things happen. And so I think that that's important to consider as well. I know this is a lengthy one. I know I just dropped a lot of stuff. If you could not keep up for some reason, I am going to list everything in the caption of this video, or in the, is that what it's called? Caption of this video. And I'm also going to send out an email later this week about the books that everyone should read. So if you're not on the email list, just go grab something. You can download the 5 Ways Women Self-Sabotage, or you can just go directly to my website and add yourself to the list so that you can get that email when it goes out this week.